story takes place in a time long ago, in a land of cold, of ice, and of snow. The days here are short, and the nights here are long. But if you thought no creature could live here, you'd be wrong. There, now you see them, those figures growing near, the unmistakable shape of a herd of reindeer. They warily wander day in and day out, searching for food on this well-travelled route. Notice that small one, trailing behind. His name is Wren. Just keep that in mind, for the life of young Wren here is destined to change, when an action so innocent caused an outcome so strange. For Wren looked down, and he saw in his path the greenest and juiciest thick clumps of grass. Now, this was most odd for this time of year. In the heart of the winter, grass was never found here. Even odder still was its colour against the snow, such a brilliant green that it almost seemed to glow. But Wren was not one to question good fate. Besides, it had been so very long since he last ate. So he greedily gobbled the grass from the ground, but no sooner had he swallowed when he heard an awful sound, a sound from within him, somewhere deep inside, then a whooshing and a gurgle and a pain in his side. "Wait!" he called to the rest of the herd. "Help!" he called again, but he choked on the word. "Please don't leave me," he whimpered out into the air, but his family kept moving, unaware of his despair. Soon they were gone, out of sight and far away, and the wind was growing wilder, and the sky began to grey. Wren had to keep moving. He had to reach his pack, but the weather still grew fiercer, and the sky was soon pitch black. He stumbled in the darkness for as far as he could go, but his legs were growing weary, and the ground was thick with snow. Ice was clinging to his antlers. Now poor Wren could hardly see, so he dragged his aching body to a stillness by a tree. He curled up beneath the branches to shelter from the storm. But then the strangest thing occurred. A voice he could have sworn was coming from the darkness, and it sounded bright and warm.
"Wren,"
the voice came sounding.
"there's no need to be afraid. You've done so much and come so far and been so very brave. Now rest here, little reindeer. Nestle down within my roots and know that I will keep you safe. I give my word to you."
The tree stood tall above him, and Wren found comfort in its words. So he lay beneath the branches, and very soon he was submerged in a deep and restful slumber, undisturbed but much deserved. And the minutes turned to hours, and the hours turned to days, and the days turned years, turned centuries, and still he didn't wake. And as the years kept marching, still the deer's protector stood, a loyal, unflinching sentinel, a guardian of wood. But all around, the world was changing, for now man had arrived, and he built a concrete jungle twisting up into the sky, and the bricks rose ever higher, and a smog soon choked the air. The people kept on building, and Wren slept through it unaware. Metal monsters flattened mountains and spewed oil into the sea. All the greenness died and disappeared, save the solitary tree. And the earth kept getting hotter, but the people didn't care. They just kept on pouring concrete, building castles in the air. Then a fateful day came calling, when the tree could do no more. The men approached it swiftly with a freshly sharpened saw. In no time at all they gave the call, and the tree fell to the floor. Now all this noise, heat and commotion had stirred Wren from his sleep. He blinked the light into his eyes and rose slowly to his feet. But this wasn't where he'd led to rest. This just wasn't right at all. What were these things with mouths agape? And these structures all so tall? "My God!" one of the creatures spoke. "A reindeer!" they cried again. "I thought they died out long ago. Quick, don't let it get away." Poor Wren was frozen to the spot. This land he didn't know. Where were the fields of evergreens, the mountains tipped with snow? He stomped his hooves, and he reared his head, and bellowed out a warning. But the people wouldn't be deterred. A mighty crowd was forming. They ran at him with chains and ropes, and there was nothing Wren could do. They drove a spike into the ground to keep him there subdued. And the people came from miles around to see the captured beast. How they marvelled at this creature they believed was long deceased. But the people in their greed and in their hating of the earth would soon be taught a lesson they could not afford to learn. For Wren heard a sound within him, then let out a racking wheeze, then a whooshing and a gurgle and an almighty sneeze. And Wren remembered what he'd eaten so long ago and far away, that juicy green thick clump of grass in the snow that fateful day. And all around him a commotion, people falling to their knees, for the reindeer they had woken up was riddled with disease. And now the people were terrified. They turned around and fled, but as they ran they took it with them, just causing it to spread. But they kept on running blindly. They just couldn't get ahead. The plague pervaded all the land, and all the people fell down, dead. Wren watched on in horror as the bodies piled high. He didn't know he had this sickness. He didn't want them all to die. But the sickness was unwavering in its solitary goal. It wouldn't, couldn't, didn't stop till it killed every living soul. Every mother, every daughter, every lover, every son, every father, every doctor, every person, everyone. And then there was a silence. Not a whisper, not a sound, besides the whimper of a reindeer tied to a spike within the ground. And the minutes turned to hours, and the hours turned to days. Wren lay down and closed his eyes, and death carried him away. And this is where we leave him, with that chain around his neck. No happy ending here, you say. Well, we're not done just yet, because time kept moving forward in that funny way it does, and beside the reindeer's body soon there grew a tiny bud. And the bud became a flower, and the flower sprouted seeds, and the seeds were carried far and wide and scattered by the breeze, and they cracked apart the concrete, and they blossomed into trees, and the air became much clearer, and the rivers and the seas, and before too long the world was green again, the man-made things all gone, the insects and the fish returned, and birds took flight with song. And perhaps one day, in years to come, the people will return, and perhaps they will be kinder, with more willingness to learn what the planet Earth can teach them, and the wonders that it holds, and perhaps they'll love each other, and be united in one goal. They'll look after every creature on this rock that we call home, and the people then will flourish, and the temperature won't rise, the ice won't melt, the trees won't burn, and smoke won't cloud the skies. And it will all just be a story, just a memory way back when, on a cold and frosty tundra, lived a reindeer known as Wren.